My dear viewers and listeners, I am Prof.Sheikh Iqbal from Bazm-e-Sheikh, again present with the story of my blindness, or say the story of my life. I told you in my previous talk that I took my master's degree in English in 1967. It was really a laudable, highly encouraging achievement on my part and on the part of my teachers and parents. But I never knew, my father never knew how would the life be pulled on. In those days, civil services laws did not allow a person whom they called blind or deaf or disabled. So it was rather impossible because it was not permissible in any college. But I must tell you, this idea, this situation never puzzled me. When I passed my master's in English, as I told you, I stood fifth in the University of the Punjab and first in my college, Common College, Faisalabad. And the person who was second to me had 68 marks less than I. Anyway, this was just to tell you the fruit of my endeavors and struggle. After doing all that, we got shifted back to Sargodha. My father got transferred because there was a commissioner, Mr. Hamad Raza, who awarded me 6 prizes and roll of honor in second year when I was in Johorabad Government College. And he was so much impressed that he called me where they was taking tea. He told me that if I had any difficulty in education, I would contact him. So in all these transfers, I contacted him and everything was done there and then because it was a cause of education. When I got back to Sargodha, even say 1.5 months before the declaration of my result, an old teacher of mine came to me, Professor M.T. Naz. He told me that he had started an academy in Urdu Bazaar and he would like me to be teaching with him. I had no experience, but he knew me. He was my teacher when I was in BA. And I just went over there. I started teaching master classes and degree classes. And he gave me 33% of the total income, which was got from there. But when the result was declared, my position was clear to everybody. He came to know of my position. He rushed back to me, to my house. He said, "You would continue, my dear student, your teaching with me, and I'll give you 40% of the total income which would be earned from that endeavor." Well, I said nothing, but instead I advertised myself as a tutor in the private capacity at my home, and I started which I called Shaheen College. Believe me, just I started and students started coming. I simply got my pamphlets distributed, and those days were the days of cinema. My slides were just placed over there, and I started teaching even 8 hours a day. It was so interesting. It was so encouraging. And meanwhile, I thought of joining Ambala Muslim College, a private college. my test was taken and I stood first among the candidates who were for interview over there. But the deputy commissioner then and a few other friends who were my interviewers later on, they felt that a blind could not go ahead in the college. So they didn't intimate me of anything, but I came to know that I was placed first in the interview. Even that did not discourage me. I continued teaching, but somehow or the other, as we know that sometimes quite unexpected things happen, and even if they had not happened, I had the courage to continue with my Shaheen College, and I could play an important role in the education sector. I could develop it. But then there was a friend of mine, Captain Mashiutur Rahman. Through him, we approached to Governor Musa. He was governor then. And he helped me out through certain resources. My case was sent to various institutions, various departments. And since I could talk fluently in English, whenever I went to any person to meet, I could write. So it did not appear to them to be very strange. Once when we visited the secretariat, we were told, I and my father went over there, we were told that my case was about to be mature. It was a delightful moment, no doubt, that I was getting government service. I got government service at Government College Sargodha. And here I must tell you, when I joined Government College Sargodha, the staff of English was 12. And there was only one person who had also been my teacher, Mr. Izzat Ali, who was second divisioner. All other 11 were third divisioner. So there was no place, there was no room for me, there was no possibility of joining Government College Sargodha, but somehow or the other, the Secretary of Education and the Director of Education and the Principal of the college were in my favor. And one of my colleagues, as I told you, who was my teacher also, it was not a fault, did not lie with me. It was departmental decision because Izzat Ali Sahab belonged to Faisalabad and he was transferred over there, and I joined on 21st October 1968, Government College Sargodha. So I felt no difficulty at all in teaching. To begin with, they started thinking that I should take small classes where there were few students studying, such as English literature. So I was allotted English literature. I took all the delight in teaching English literature. There were good students who studied English literature, but that way I was kept aloof. My personality was simply hidden in a room, and that I didn't want, because I was setting a precedence for others. I must tell you, I was then a missionary. I was feeling if I could join, I should prove worth joining an institution. So I over there I started teaching, and then I was given even general classes after 3-4 years, and I had to teach even 150 boys in a class. So there are so many experiences of the class, but I did not feel difficulties at all, because I placed the students in such a way as I could possibly gather the idea who was sitting. And then I requested some students and just deputed them as monitors to help me out. And then I had command over my subject, and I had love for my students. But even then, that was a very difficult time, because most of the students came from villages. And the villages students who came over there, they simply came to the college to get a degree as a sign of grace, as a sign of honor, not for studies. So I had to face difficulties, and sometimes I had to even beat some of the students for their misconduct. But students always cooperated with me. In the college, I started at the English Literary Circle, and that continued till my retirement. Just before that, it was assigned to somebody else. I just we had the debates, we had essay competitions, we had mushairas. We called people from the city, and in the debates, it was for the first time when the girls even attended, and when the girls even participated as debaters in our college, and the college was fully packed up. That the stadium was fully packed up where the function was going on, and all went all right. But all this, I don't know what happened, was not appreciated by most of my colleagues. Perhaps they entertained some grudge against me, or perhaps they could not reconcile with the idea that a blind could go as easily as they. Obviously, they met me very courteously, very politely, very nicely, but in their heart of hearts, wherever they found any chance, they tried to discourage my efforts. But I was not discouraged. I kept studying. I taught for 30 years, almost 30 years in that college, Government College Sargodha. I joined there Sargodha, and I retired from that college. And I got retirement almost 8 years before my date of retirement, because I felt that I was doing well. I had performed my duty. Teaching continued even after getting getting retired. The students flocked to me like anything at my place. I taught them, I guided them, and I started CSS classes also, which are still continuing, CSS and PMS classes. So I felt no difficulties. So that was the story of the college of the 30 years. But along with this, I continued my education. I was crazy for PhD, but then there was no arrangement of PhD in English, even in the University of the Punjab. So I took MA Urdu examination, master's examination, and I thought that there would be a chance of doing my PhD in Urdu. But after that, I did MPhil from Open University. And that Open University, that was very surprising, because I was 55 when I took my examination of MPhil. And believe me, I am astonished. I was declared first. I was given the gold medal, first class first in MPhil at the age of 55, when one starts forgetting things. But somehow I started remembering things. And after that, and the topic of that, the thesis which was allotted to me was impact of English romantic poets over Iqbal. I should have been given the degree of English, but Allama Iqbal Open University did not have that authority. They only could give degree, they only could accord degree of Iqbaliyat. So then I did my PhD, and the thesis of my PhD was the impact of the British poets over Iqbal. And I also fared over there. I continued my journey of studies. Still, I'm doing. I also started law classes, which I later on left because of certain problems, because I did not have disability certificate. And they wanted to give me a writer of class 4, even below BA. How could he write my papers? I wrote the first examination I took. I could not qualify all the papers. I could qualify 5 papers out of 7. That was disheartening, and I didn't have any benefit of it, so I left it. But then I started music. Music was a very favorite subject with me from the very beginning, and with a poet, music has an important a role to play. So music is in the soul and heart of a poet. So I started, after retirement, I started playing on harmonium, which I still play. I also tried to join homeopathic college, but rather I joined homeopathic college. But that did not satisfy me. The philosophy which I read of that homeopathy possibly could not convince me, so I left it. So this was what I did, and tomorrow I will be talking about my literary career. I hope you will subscribe, whatever you are listening to, you will subscribe me, subscribe this channel, and share it with others. Thank you.